Welcome back to Boring Build Friday. We're back to working on our 2015 Toyota RAV4. If you don't know what I'm talking about, link's up there. Let's get started.
So the first thing we're going to do is clean up all of our welds. Clean up the seams where we're going to join our pieces together. And we'll clean up what we're going to weld to. Every single spot weld. Make sure that we don't have any contaminants in our weld.
So we got all of our welds ground down. I made all of our little backings for both of our pillars and down here. So we're going to get them all welded in there. We'll put some weld through primer on here first and then weld them in.
So now we're going to fit our quarter up there. Make sure we got everything in the right spot. Make sure we don't have to make any fine adjustments. Because once we put our foam and glue on there, it's too late. Close the rear gate. We'll put the door back up. Check all of our gaps. Everything looks good. So now we can pull it all back apart. And we'll prep the quarter to go up one last time. So we'll clean up all of our spot welds on the quarter panel. And we got to do both sides. You're welding through this panel, so there's two sides that need to be cleaned up. So now we can put our weld through primer on the quarter. And put our weld through primer on the car with our custom masking system. And now we're ready to put the quarter up for the last time. Move Mr. Spotty. So we have all of our foam and our bonding adhesive in there. So now we're going to make sure it's in the right spot. Put the tail light in there. Put the rear bumper on. Close the lift gate. And check all of our gaps, because there is no taking it back off now. All of our gaps look good. So now you can pull it back apart and start welding. We'll weld a couple in different areas, keep them from getting too hot. Check our door one last time. Make sure it closes nice, make sure our gap is still good. Now remove the door. Get it out of the way. And we can finish welding the rest of the quarter on.
So that's about as far as we can go on the build for today. We have to wait for the bodywork and painting gnomes to show up. Now, it looks like the bodywork gnome was already here. He's like a little ninja, I didn't even see him. After they get the bodywork done, then we'll get it all ready for paint. Once they paint it, we can throw it all back together. This job is done. It's pretty simple. Can't believe it was actually total. So our painting gnomes have edged out our quarter panel, so now we can throw the door back on.
So we'll snap the weather stripping back in its little clips. Put the door striker back in. Tighten it down. Click. Now we can put the door button in. Tighten it down. Click. Put the door gasket in. Now we put the door back on. For the last time. Tighten the door down. Get the plug out of the way so we don't slam it in the door. Make sure it closes. And the bodywork gnome is all done in here. So we can put the bumper reinforcement back on. It's got a little extension that bolts on. And then we can put the actual reinforcement on. Tighten it up.
So since our RAV4 is in desperate need of tires, rather than buying a new set, I have a parts truck. It only has 6,000 miles on it. Why not use those? Don't even have to dismount the wheels. So I'm going to throw those wheels and tires right on this truck.
So I'll pull the left front tire off. Well, we got it off. We'll check the brakes. Yep, they're bad. But I don't happen to have some spare ends in my pocket right now. So we're just going to throw it all back together and order them. We'll do those brakes later.
Well, we're going to put the new wheel covers on. These were dirty. Can't put dirty parts on.
Now the right front. Okay, clean freaks, let me hear it. You should have cleaned the tires first. Yeah, not my job. We'll let the detail guy do that.
Really, Toyota? Who still uses wheel covers? It's like somebody fell for the nitrogen scam.
So finally our left rear. So I'll be taking all these off again. So I'm sure someone will comment about just bolting on the wheels, but there's no point to torquing them all down because they are coming off at least one more time, probably a few.
So we reprogrammed all of our tire sensors, our lights out, we're good to go.
So now it's time to start getting the car apart for the painting gnomes. Pull the molding off the rear door, the bottom. Flips down, pull the little plug out, and there's one screw in it. The outside has some two-sided tape across the top, so we'll cut that off. And the clips just pop out. Just wiggle and pull. Now pull the door panel off. Disconnect the switches.
Somebody's been here before.
One last screw. Make my job easier. Pop the cover off behind the door handle. Pull the screw out of there. And then lift off the door panel. Disconnect the lock and handle. And the whole thing just kind of fell out. So we'll just leave the cables in there. Lower the window. We'll unscrew the window channel. Wish the camera guy would have set the camera up so we could see what I was doing. We'll pull the stationary glass out. Now we'll pull the belt molding off. I'll pull the door latch out. Set it down. This Toyota likes to hide the screws behind it for the door handle. Common Toyota thing. So we'll pop the cover off behind the handle. Slide the handle back. And pull our little gaskets off. Now we'll put the latch back in, just temporarily, so that when the painting gnomes are there, they don't have the door flapping open. Then we'll move on to the front door. Pop the switches out, unplug them. And we'll pull the cover off. Then we can get to all of our screws. I actually have all the screws in this one. Pull the door panel off. Pull the cover off for the mirror. Now we can disconnect all of our cables. Unbolt the mirror.
In the pile.
Now we can take off the outside handle, pop the little cover off so we can access the door lock. Pull the handle back, twist it out of there. And pull our little gaskets off. Pull the lower trim off. Got a couple little tabs that you just push down. Peel it down. Get that little cap off so we can get the one screw that's in there. Now we'll lower the windows so we can get the belt molding clips out. Hopefully without breaking them. And now I'll finish taking that molding off the bottom of the door. I'll cut the two-sided tape off. And pull our molding off. Little gaskets usually stick on the door, so we'll have to put those back on our clips. Now we're back onto our rear gate. We gotta pull all the trim off. Just wiggle and pull. Pull the big panel down. It's raining clips. We'll pull the clips out that stayed in there.
Somebody's been here before.
That's some masking tape. Guess we know why it was debadged. So now we can pull the fasteners off. Pop the taillights out. And pull the center trim out. Now we can unbolt the rear spoiler. Push a little grommet through. And pull the spoiler off. Got a couple clips on the outside. Fish the wires out. And now we'll start cleaning our doors off so we can sand them down. Our magic eraser to get our two-sided tape off. Now we'll start prepping it for the painting gnomes. Not sure why I decided to do this, but here we go. It's just a gray scuff pad with some sanding paste. It's basically got sand in it. It's pretty easy. That's why I figured I would give the painting gnomes a little break. Just work your way around the door. Go over it a couple times. So since we're only blending this, we don't actually have to sand it down with a coarse grit. It's basically just going to be a little bit of paint and mostly clear. It'll just be paint on the edges where we blend the door. Wipe it down, dry it off, make sure we didn't miss any areas.
I just wanted to be sure. I am. I still hate sanding. The only good thing about this, it smells like lemons.
So now we're going to do the lift gate. We're going to do it the same way. until we get to where our primer for our bodywork is, and then we'll sand that with some 400. We'll leave the quarter in the door for the painting gnomes. Then we'll just work our way across. Go over it a couple times. You don't have to worry about sanding through. It'd take you quite a while to get through the paint and the clear. So when that's all done, I'll start wet sanding our primer. We got a block in there. Make sure we keep it straight. Then we'll get rid of the block. We can do the part that's not flat by hand. Dry it off, make sure we didn't miss anything. That's enough for today.
It looks like the painting gnomes have been here, so let's get our RAV4 all put back together.
So we'll put our gaskets on our door handle for the left front door. I can slide our door handle in. Clip it into place. Put our door lock in. It's hard to be sure if it went in, so we'll try the key in there, make sure it works. It does, so now we can screw it in. Slide the belt molding in. Clip it in with our belt molding installation tool. Put our new mirror on. Clip that in. Put a couple bolts in it. Tighten them up to manufacturer's torque specs. 2 Ooga Doogas. Now we can put our cables on for our lock and handle. You don't normally get to see this. The camera guy was nice enough to put the camera where he could. I guess he's trying to make up for that poor camera position on the left rear door. So I set our door panel up there, clip it all in with our door panel installation tools. Clip in the switches, install those, and then we'll put the screws in. There's 2 behind the grab handle, and 1 behind the door handle. Put our cover back on the grab handle, slide it in on the bottom, and snap the rest of it in. Put our mirror cover on, and put the cover behind the door handle. The little plug in for the cap for the outside. I'll put the little triangle cover in the corner of the fender here. We just had it out of the way to make it easier to mask off. It just pops out, pops back in. The painting gnome requested that it was removed, so that's why I took it off, even though we didn't actually paint the fender. So now we can move on to the left rear door. Put our little gaskets for our handle in. Clip them in. And put our handle in. Slide it forward to lock it in. Put our cap on the back. I'll pull our door latch out so we can access that screw that's hidden back there. Tighten that cap back on. I'll put the door latch back up. The handle on the outside has a slot that this latch slides into, so you have to make sure it engages. It is easy to miss, and then your door handle doesn't work. Don't ask me how I know. So, if you check the outside door handle and it works, you know you got it in the right spot. So we'll put our water barrier back up. We can slide our belt molding on. Somehow we got the stationary glass in there. Not sure when that happened. I don't know where the camera guy was for that one. So we'll put our door panel back on. Snap it in. Put the screws back in it. Clip our switches in. Put the cover on our grab handle. And put the cover behind the door handle. Make sure the handle and lock work. And now we're going to put the roof rack back on. We had it out of the way so we could get paint around that top edge. We just unbolted it and lifted it up. So we'll bolt it down. We'll put the covers back on. Bolt the back part down. And put those covers back on. Now we put the rear gate together. So when these are assembled at the factory, the last part to go in is the glass, and it has a gasket across the bottom. So since we're putting it together backwards, we tape the gasket up, slide the finish panel on, and now when we pull the tape off, the gasket will be on top of the finish panel. Otherwise, if you just stick the finish panel up there, you got to try to fish the gasket out. Now it kind of sits on top for the most part. I'm going to do the same thing with each taillight. Tape the gasket up and out of the way. Slide our taillight in there. Pull our tape off. And hopefully most of the gasket stays on the outside where it belongs. Tape up the right side. Put the light in there. Pull our tape off. And put our spoiler on. Put the wires in there. Plug the grommet in. Line up all of our clips. And clip it in with our rear spoiler installation tool, which is just one of our other installation tools we're misusing. Now we can bolt in our taillights and finish panel. Plug in our taillights. Plug in our license plate lights and camera. Couple more taillights. And move Mr. Spotty. Put our bolts in our spoiler. And now we put our cover back on. Fun fact, there was already cavity wax in this gate, so I didn't have to do it. So we'll install the cover. I'll put the side covers on the top. And our one setter cover. There's our cavity wax. We're going to make sure we get it all around where we welded. All around our quarter panel over the wheel arch. I'll do the inside. Do our C-pillar. And we'll do the dog leg from the inside. Probably overkill, but a little extra wax isn't going to hurt. And we'll get our D-pillar. Now we'll get our rear doors. Bet you thought I was going to miss that. Of course not. These are just real easy to get to with the wand. And I hate the gooey fun stuff that Toyota uses on the water barriers. So peeling it down to get in there from the top isn't so much fun. So we'll just use the wand. Same outcome, less mess. So now you put our rear bumper retainers on. Put a couple of clips that you just push in. And one screw. Put a rear reflector in our bumper. Put the J-nut on. Clip the light in. Got one plastic retainer and one screw. And now pull the wheel opening molding off the right rear. It's got one screw in the bottom. And it's two-sided taped all around. A couple clips in there too. Got a little road rash on it.
Somebody got a little too close to something. Not even part of the accident.
So we'll clean off our two-sided tape. And we got our new molding. We'll peel off the plastic and throw it on the ground, which is punishable by death in California. Put our retainers in the bottom, screw it in. And now we're onto our seat belt. Put the little cover in behind it. Then we'll put the seat belt in and bolt it in. Now we can put the upper quarter trim in, line it all up and snap it in. Now we can put the top of our seat belt in. Bolt it in. Put the cap on. I'll put our taillight in. Clip the bulbs in. And slide the taillight forward. A couple bolts in the back. This is a used taillight. They're pretty cheap. Our old one just had a broken corner on it, but for 20 bucks, can't go wrong. Just replace it. Put our wheel liner in and push our little clips in. I'll put the other reflector in our bumper. We got some rear splash guards that also are bumper supports. So we'll clip those in. Now we'll put our wheel opening molding on our left rear. Pull off the plastic for the two-sided tape and throw it on the ground in defiance of California law. And now we can put the bumper on. Those wheel opening moldings have to go on before the bumper. Well, they don't have to, but it's easier. So we'll use our bumper installation tool. Clip the bumper in. Put the two bolts in the back. And now we can screw in the wheel openings to those splash guards that we had just put in. Bunch of push pins across the back. And a couple screws.
So my original theory about the gorilla that ripped this apart and bent these cables, and that's why the selectors wouldn't work, it was wrong. Well, that's probably why the knob is broken off the back of this. It's not what's wrong with the cables. Now, in order to figure that out, I did one of these things that mechanics used to do all the time. It's called diagnosing. Instead of just throwing parts at it. So I pulled the cables off to see if the doors would move by hand, and they wouldn't. And while I was under there, say it with me everyone, somebody's been here before. Now all that grease is not supposed to be on there. This is where the cable assembly comes down. It's actually pretty easy to change. Just pulls off. So I pulled it off just to check it, and this should spin pretty free. It does not. Apparently they put some grease on there to try and free it up, but that's not actually fixing the problem. Now, there's supposed to be a bunch of other parts in here, which I was able to get out. The rest of the heater box, so I can make a little room. The problem is actually down inside the heater box, in that little hole. You can kind of see the doors in there. Well, I'm going to pull it all apart, you'll be able to see it a lot better. But in order to do that, I have to pull the dash off. I've been dreading this, because it's not really a fun job, but in order to do the job right, we're going to have to pull the dash out and fix those doors. Now I suspect, I'm going to make another assumption here, that the reason those doors came apart is because they got stuck together and somebody jammed them open. The reason they got stuck together is that awesome design flaw that Toyota made up there with a vent that is actually more like a gutter to a downspout. Somebody probably spilled some pop in there, came down, and stuck those doors together. Once we have the dash out, I'll be able to verify, but that's what I'm going with right now. Thanks, Toyota. Never mind, I found something else I can do before we get to the dash. Let's get these on there.
So we'll pull our two-sided tape off, clip them in, put our one bolt in there, a little cover up, then fold this little door closed. Clips back in. Now we can do the front door. Bolt it in, put our cover on, and close its little door.
So that's about as far as I feel like going today. I'm going to put off the dash as long as I can. So we'll do it in the next video. Or maybe I'll work on the Mustang just to avoid taking the dash out of this thing. I'm going to have to do it eventually, but I'll put it off as long as I can. So like this video if you found it interesting, share it if you think somebody else might. Subscribe to see if I decide to work on this or the Mustang next week. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.